In the face of economic hardship confronting the people of Nigeria, there lies an incredible potential for innovation and economic prosperity. So this day, I urge you to break out of the box to express your potentials. It is time to shift your focus from the quest for spiritual intervention in religious centers to the pursuit of knowledge that can lead to genuine and lasting economic emancipation. Know this: knowledge is the key that unlocks the doors to innovation, progress, and prosperity. The issue is that faith is also key, but there is more to it. Faith with investment in education, research, and skills development lead to advancement. Our ability to think critically, solve problems, and create new opportunities is what would drive the people to development. I understand the role of spiritual engagement in our lives. I also understand that spirituality does not solve the problems of poor health care, broken infrastructure, and nagging poverty. But the reflections and effect of spirituality can affect our character to the extent that we then use that character for development. Love is of essence here. I remember Jesus Christ saying, "Love your neighbor as yourself." That is the power of love. In this case, love can be spiritual. What do you think? Welcome to this edition of State Affairs, coming to you from State Affairs Studio here in Ibadan. I am Edmondo Pilo. There's a lot to talk about today. So we'll use this book to reflect on the issues of the time. Look at this book. You said, Humanity, Challenging Narratives in Politics, Religion, Economy, and Society. So this book will serve as a reflection on contemporary issues in Nigeria today. It's a book written by Deji Yesufu. And Deji Yesufu is my guest on State Affairs. Deji, good to have you here.
Thank you very much, Edmond. Thank you very much for having me in your wonderful studios.
Deji is also a pastor.
Yes.
You preach the gospel.
Yes, sir.
Deji is also a writer.
Yes, by the grace of God.
You write books.
Yes, yes.
So this is one of your books.
Yes.
Your latest work.
Yes, please.
Humanity, Challenging Narratives in Politics, Religion, Economy, and Society. We have more than 100 articles in this book.
Yes, 101 actually.
Yes, 101.
Yes.
What does it take to write?
Oh, well, I think the very first thing that will lead a person to write will, number one, be an education. You must know your ABCs very well and be able to put the words together to make meaning. Secondly, then you have a burden. When you have a burden, you have great concerns. I think these burdens, sometimes they emerge from your own experiences, either your experiences of suffering or your beholding or looking at people who have suffered. You know, and saying that when you realize that people don't necessarily have to be in the situation where they are, you know, you just have to write. You know, there's a biblical character in the Bible, Jeremiah, that says that the words of God, like burden, becomes like fire within him, and until he speaks or writes, he doesn't find any relief. So that's what happens to me. Many times when I'm concerned about something so much, I just express myself in writing.
And you've always challenged narratives.
Yes. I've tried to do that because I do not know. I do not think that having things work properly, I don't think it is rocket science. When we're talking about rocket science, we're talking about the deeper level of science, where you combine all of calculus, all of physics, all of chemistry, biology, everything. You bind all of it together so as to propel men from Earth to the moon. It's difficult work. But to make society work properly is not. It's just basic common sense. And so when you see Nigerians bungle it over and over and over again, you become concerned. And then you begin to ask, why are things the way they are? And then you are looking for answers. If I find answers here, I key into it. If I find answers here, I key into it. And then sometimes I try to write it out in an essay, just to show people that these are the way things should be,
So how do you go about finding answers?
Okay, well, for example, I remember it's okay, let me even use you. Okay, I came to Ibadan. I finished school 2003, went for NYSC, found myself in Ibadan in 2006. 2007, I was just listening to radio, and I found out that there's a new radio in town. And there's this gentleman, Edmond, he's making some sense. I begin to listen to him. So that's one way to find answers. People are saying sensible things, listen to them. The other day also, I saw somebody, I don't know whether it was from your program or from some other place, where the person quoted Chuna Achebe as saying that the single problem with Nigeria is leadership. And if somebody can define our problem in one sentence, we should listen to such a person. So I find answers from different places. Many times they come to me, probably because I'm searching. So I'm able to discern those answers. And when I find them, I try to write about them and educate others about it.
And you have challenged narratives in politics.
Oh yes. I've been trying to do that, prior to the time of the internet. I used to do it in my little corner, write them in notebooks, but the minute the internet came up and I noticed that people were willing to read what I was writing, I keep putting them out there. So I challenge the political landscape, the religious landscape, try to provide solution to our inherent economic challenges and, just to make society work, because it can work. It's not difficult at all. Why we have 6 continents or maybe 7, and everywhere society is working. Why is it failing in Africa? It's a serious question.
Have you found the answer?
Well, I wouldn't say I have found all of the answers, but by God's grace, one is finding the answer more and more. In this book, I wrote about my trip to Germany, to Berlin. There's one thing I took out of Berlin that continues to pain me till today, and that is that I did not find one gate man in Berlin. Edmond, if they're going to employ a gate man in Berlin, they're going to pay him a minimum wage. Nobody can afford that. So what do? They put a mechanical system by the gate. Everybody has a pass. Okay, and when you get to the gate, you put it and the gate opens, you go in and you come out. You understand? But in this place, you see able-bodied men, people with 2 wives at home and children, sitting by a gate from morning till night, manning a gate, doing gate man. It doesn't make sense. It's waste of resources. You're wasting this man's time and his life. And okay, they should pay him 70,000 naira to sit on the gate. Nobody will employ him. They'll go and use that 70,000 to put a mechanical system there to make that gate work. So those are things, and our people, our leaders are traveling abroad. They are saying this. I've only been to Germany once. I saw it. That was one thing I took out. Of course, I took many other things out, So we can make this thing work. But for some reason, I don't know, maybe people are trying to protect themselves. We ask them, you have found this solution. Why are you not talking? We don't want to talk. It's really sad.
Why don't they want to talk?
Well, I think it's number one is fear. Is fear because of repercussion. Probably others have spoken in the past and there have been repercussions where probably they lost their jobs, they lost influences and things like that. But it happens over and over again. Take, for example, I live in a 4 flats. Okay, 1 story. 2 flats upstairs, two flats downstairs. In that 4 flat, we have this gentleman. He's a Muslim man. He's like an imam. I'm a pastor. Ideally, we should clash, but he's like my best friend in that compound. And how did he become my best friend? The man has this high sense of responsibility. He's a tenant, but he's also the secretary of the landlord. He's the one that handles our electricity. He does everything. So recently, once in a while, I come to him and I'll complain, why don't we have light? Why don't we have light? And the man will sit me down for 30 minutes and be telling me the reason why Nigeria does not have light. These are the reasons. He'll be explaining. So I now told him, I said, this thing you are telling me, call Obilu now and tell him. He said, no. Everybody's afraid. So I said, okay, well, I'm trying to keep those records. But he can say it better because he has written NEPA so many times. He has gotten into the system so many times. He has those first-hand experiences to share, but he won't talk. For some reason, I don't know.
Why is humanity the first word of the title of this book?
Yes, it's an interesting thing. It's the title of the 3rd chapter. Yes, but at the same time, we were looking for, because it's 101 essays, so we're looking for a name for it. We couldn't find, and a friend told me that, look for 1 word or 2 words that will summarize, and I couldn't find it, but one day, I think maybe when I was sleeping, I woke up and that thing just said that the name of the 3rd chapter, call it the name of the book, and since that time, it has been interesting. And funny enough, this phrase, challenging narratives in politics, religion, economy, and society, was generated by AI. Artificial intelligence. Yes, because what happened was my publisher put humanity and put the ideas around it into AI, and he gave us about 10 subtopics. So he said, choose the one that you want. So I chose challenging narratives in politics and religion, but I now added economy and society.
How does AI make you feel?
Well, in one sense, I think I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid of it because I fear it may take away people's jobs, but in another sense, I realize that it is actually going to aid us. It's going to help us, If the background work, the groundwork can be done by artificial intelligence, then human beings will just build upon it, and we fly.
The 3rd chapter of this book has different articles.
Yes.
You have challenges of Marwa transporters in Ibadan.
Yes.
Nigerians and our inability to listen.
Yes.
Let's talk about that inability to listen.
Incidentally, that experience came from while he was there. Some people were just making this noise, and he just turned and said, "These are Nigerians," and everybody could tell that they were Nigerians because in foreign places, people don't talk too much. They don't, And then he also noticed that anywhere he was, people tend to keep their opinions to themselves, except they are asked. But Nigerians will always talk, So he said he now realized that the people who talk a lot tend to be shallow. Those who keep to themselves and receive more, but speak when they are asked to speak, tend to be deeper, So he advised us in the group, that we should imitate something like that. So after that, I now wrote this article.
Is that true? Is that true that those who keep calm are deeper?
Well, I think this thing comes from maybe personality. Yes, because somebody like myself, I can't find myself anywhere and not talk, But at the same time, I try as much as I haven't learned that wisdom. I try as much as possible also to contain myself, except I am asked. But some other time my real personality comes out and I talk. But there are some other people who may not be talkative like that, who don't speak too well. But at the same time, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are people of wisdom.
Look at this topic again in chapter 3. this problem of unmarried young ladies, is it a problem?
Well, Edmond, you will very likely not be aware of that problem because you're not a pastor.
Okay.
But those of us who are in ministry are aware of it. It's in ministry, there are two pressing problems that many ministers can't easily solve. Okay, even the miracle workers can't solve it. The first one is this issue of unmarried ladies. The second one is women who can bear children. And incidentally, I wrote about the two. Okay, for the women who can bear children, I advise adopt. Nigerians won't adopt. But this issue of unmarried ladies, I think it is if it's not an epidemic, it's a serious matter.
What is it about?
Well, it's the fact that our young ladies they want to get an education, just like their male counterparts, and by the time they are in their 20, 22, 23, 24, they're either finishing school or probably still in school or something like that. But the truth of the matter is that a lady's biological clock begins to tick from something even 16, although safer at 18, and then begins to go down from 28, 29, and 30. In the medical world, if a pregnant woman comes and is older than 30, they treat her as an older person who is about to give birth. She's given special care. Okay, so that's the situation. But we now have our young ladies spending so much of their biological clock in school, and when they are now supposed to be in a man's house and bear children, they are way beyond that, and then the young men also come into the field. They want to get married. Many times our young men won't get married until they have something to hold them economic wise, and then when they look through the field of the ladies available, they go for the younger ones, not the older ones, so by a lady who is not married by the age of 30 in churches, they become, there are so many of them. So they are, and then they because they don't have a family, they don't have a husband or wife children to take care of, they put in all their energy into career, into education. So many of them become high flying, they build, and then it now becomes even more difficult to marry them because the man who wants to marry them probably doesn't have even up to half of their qualifications. So it's a serious issue, and then I think it's now even made double serious by the fact that the Christian religion teaches, and which I support, that a man should marry just one wife. Okay, our fathers probably didn't have that problem then because they had the freedom to marry many wives. Although our young men are finding a solution around that. They are legally married. They get legally married to one wife, and then they have strings of side chicks.
Side chicks. So
yes.
How is the church coping with this side chick syndrome?
Oh well, we tell them that it's a sin. Yes.
A sin?
Yes. You are not to have a side chick.
Do they understand?
Well, you can only talk. Our men who are involved in it, they won't talk. They will just keep it to themselves. They keep the thing, and because somehow I think society might be breeding the side chick syndrome. In fact, the economic situation is breeding it.
Okay.
Because when you have a situation, men tend to be very savvy, sensible. When a man gets into a system, he tends to do very well. And with time, a man will prosper. Okay? If that man prospers and does very well, he should take care of his wife and children, and he does that. But many times our wives, because they are the only wives in the house, there's no feeling of competition. They take their husbands for granted. Okay, so the man now looks at it and says, okay, the only way to teach her some sense or just to give some space is to have some competition outside. He would not bring the wife in. He will not. Muslim men may do that. They have the freedom to do that. But Christian men will not. They will keep the woman outside, and they'll be taking care of her. They have the economic means.
So Christian men have side chicks?
Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. Yes. Definitely.
What about pastors? Do they have side chicks?
Edmund, that one, it passed my power. I don't know.
Okay.
We usually counsel that they shouldn't.
Okay.
But what men do underground, nobody knows, so I won't be surprised if they do.
We are building a religious society.
Yes.
Because in this work, you dwell a lot on religion.
Yes.
It's such a religious society.
Yes.
Is it a godly society?
Okay, so it is a religious society, all right, but it is an ungodly society, and it is something that I'm also very concerned about. In fact, it's something that I try to look into in this book. I have our local church in the University of Ibadan. That's where we were able to rent a space, And before we go to start service, sometimes I observe the young students, I see them on a Sunday morning, Saturday, even midweek. They spend all their time praying. They are spending all their time praying. And they are praying in the open, on the courts, in the car park. And I'm wondering who sent them work. I called my daughter. My daughter is 13. I called her when I pointed to those. I said, the day I come to the campus and I see you praying on the court, you're a pastor's daughter, I will beat you there. I'll look for Cain and I'll beat you. It's stupidity. Because the purpose of coming to the university is to get an education. Okay? Bayo Adeyinka is one of our guys on Facebook. Facebook is a street.
Yeah.
So he has this address. Fantastic guy. He says that in the bank where he works, from time to time, they have to employ new hands. He said many times these student church people, when they graduate and they come to the bank, they usually don't have anything. All they have is, I graduated, work experience, I was fellowship leader, I was prayer secretary, I was this, I was that. He said, on the other hand, you see some other students who were not involved with all these things, who, yes, they went to church, they were involved in fellowship and all that, but they were also involved with student union, they were also involved with other social concerns, so that by the time they get into the society, they're well-rounded. There was a time you had this student on your program, I think on Splash FM, an A student, a lawyer. He came, he came to talk to his fellow student. He had graduated, but he instead of even going into law, I think he specialized in a particular thing. And he came and he was talking about how while he was on campus, he didn't just stay in fellowship. He was doing other things, and that way, by the time he got into society, he was all round and he had so much experience, So religion, while I'm a pastor, I promote religion, but what is happening on our campuses is a canker and it's doing more harm than good.
But these students in the courts are communicating with their maker. So how do you explain to them that communicating with the maker
already they
is
are not
wrong?
Already they are not, because their maker, who is Jesus Christ, in the Bible says, when you pray, go into your closet. Prayer should always be private. The moment you are even doing it outside and people they are seeing you, you are already praying amiss. So they are wasting their time. That's the truth. So you are on the court, you are praying, and people are looking at you that you are spiritual or no. You have gotten all your reward. That prayer cannot be answered.
But if you see the intensity of this prayer, sometimes some of them are in the spirit. You see, when they begin to speak in tongues,
yes,
because I see them sometimes,
yes,
and I'm looking at them from a distance.
Yes,
I'm trying to understand what they are going through at that moment.
How long have they been doing this? I finished school in 2002. I got into school 1994. They have been praying like that since. What has changed? What has changed? All these students are finishing school and there are no jobs. So what has changed? What are they praying?
Even the society is a praying society.
Yes.
There are churches everywhere.
Yes.
And they are praying in the morning.
Yes.
They are praying at night.
Yes. And that's the problem. Nobody is asking them to pray in the morning and pray at night.
But they've chosen to do that.
No, but they're wasting their time. Many of these things are not producing results. They are not producing results. They are not changing society. Okay? We talk about in our society, in our world today, we talk about two leading ideas. Okay? We talk about socialism. We talk about capitalism. There are some parts of the world in the East, mostly, you have that people tend to be socialists. The government tend to be socialist. In the West, they are capitalists. In Britain, there is a combination of the two. In fact, our world today they are trying to balance it. Okay? Now, you will realize that if you read your Bible very well, the Bible says that he that does not work should not eat. That is capitalism. The man that works deserves his earning. The man that works to build a space like you have here deserves his profit. The man that spends his time to study, the man that spends his time to give value to society deserves the money that comes his way. Okay? And that man deserves to even leave that money for his children and his children's children. That's capitalism. But the same Bible in Acts chapter 4 and Acts chapter 2 to Acts chapter 4 talks about the fact that when the Spirit was acting in the first church of Jesus Christ, the people shared all that they had in common. So you see that in life there's always a balance. Sometimes there's a need for you to earn a profit so that you can build society, help others. Some other times there's a need to share. It's a balance. Okay, so many times when you go to a system where it is all capitalism, there's a problem. If you go to a system where it's all socialism, there's a problem. That is what our praying churches should learn, to create the balance. Not praying from morning to night or praying on Tuesday morning. Edmond.
What's wrong with Tuesday?
Everything is wrong with Tuesday.
What about Monday?
Everything is You know that Monday thing is a problem. I stay in some part of Bodija. And then by the time on Monday morning, there's this church that is doing a program Monday morning. And then blocks the road. There's traffic. There's everything wrong with it. There's a reason why we have Sunday. And even government recognizes it. And they gave us Sunday to go and worship our God. What do you want to do with Monday? Monday is a time for productivity when you must get into the office. And for people like us who write an article, edit a video, write an idea out. That is what Monday morning is meant for, not for praying in church. You should have prayed in church on Sunday if you prayed right. You pray in church on Sunday. In fact, my own denomination, we have church service on Sundays, we have church service in the morning, we have church service in the evening. And that's all. You don't know your Saturday to your Monday, you stay at home or go to your work.
But what day did the Bible recommend as the day of rest?
Yeah, I believe that should be what commandment now? I think that should be the fourth commandment that talks about the Sabbath.
Yeah.
You know, for the Jews, it was Saturday.
Okay.
You know, but for Christians, because our Lord rose on a Sunday morning, we call it the Lord's Day. So we recognize Sunday as our new Sabbath.
Who changed that? Who gave that order?
There's something called in church history that we call the traditions of the fathers. And that is where the Roman Catholics get it very well. They're able to pass on the traditions. Okay, so there are certain things our fathers have done. For example, the question you might want to ask is, who said that 66 books of the Bible are sacrosanct or they are divine words of God? It was the church fathers. Some fathers sat and said, these books are the words of God. Okay, and they pass the traditions to us and we receive it. We don't question it.
Why?
Okay?
Why don't you question it?
Well, there is this thing
Because
about...
you challenge narratives.
Yes, I do.
Why have you not challenged that narrative?
I think I have. There are narratives we can challenge that is acceptable to challenge. There are others that is not necessary.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we can't... how many years do I have? I don't know how many years. You know, but I mean, this 47 years, you know, I'm not going to live too long to challenge all the narratives. There are some that are needful, there are some that are not. You know, for example, I mean, I came to Ibadan Limelight through the tithe challenge. You know, I remember coming to speak on tithing in your program, and it earned me something. I was pursued out of my church for that interview.
You were pursued out of the church?
Oh, yes.
Did you offend the church?
Oh, yes.
Tell me the story.
Oh, yes. So the local church, I'm going to save the name.
Yeah.
You know, they when I came to have that interview, you know, I mean, I had the freedom to go anywhere to do the interview. But I think they didn't like the idea of saying that I was a church worker and I was not tithing. You know, because then that would portray an example to others who may be church workers and are not tithing. You know, so eventually I mean, there were many other issues. My family and I had to leave because it was becoming too hot.
You were challenging the narrative
yes.
from within.
Yes. And that happened many years even before that the priest came with his own narrative on tithing. You know, but even that tithing thing has become even more serious for me because I realize that many of the problems that we have in our world today, in our churches, still boils down to churches receiving things like this and not using the resources well.
I am discussing with Deji Yusufu. He's the author of this book, Humanity, Challenging Narratives in Politics, Religion, and Economy and Society. Challenging Narratives in Religion, Politics, Economy and Society. You can find this book on udarabooks.com. I recommend the book to you. Go on udarabooks.com and get a copy of this book. It's an interesting book on different subjects. In this book, Deji challenged the narratives in politics, in economy. In this book, he talked about reform theology. Reform theology. What is reform theology?
Okay, so reform theology is biblical theology. So what it really means is this. Many things that our churches do, they tend to just take from tradition. Now, I say that tradition is good if it is healthy, if it is biblical. But there are some traditions that didn't necessarily come from the Bible. Many of them just came through the centuries and they were workable and they were implemented.
Remember you talked about the fathers.
Yes.
Who came together and took certain decisions.
Yes.
That did not come from the Bible.
Oh, no. Well, you could say that they deduced it from the Bible. Yes.
Deductions.
Yes.
Deductions can be wrong.
Yes, they can be. Yes.
The Sabbath is the seventh day.
Yes.
Stated clearly in the Bible.
Yes.
But the fathers decided to make their own deduction.
Well, one other reason why they probably did that was that in the New Testament, every time they talked about the Lord's Day, it was a Sunday. So there were numerous places where they say the people gathered on the Lord's Day, which was a Sunday. We have it in 1 Corinthians 13. We also have it in the vision of John in the book of Revelation. That on the Lord's Day. So that tradition, these fathers we're talking about are just about a little, like 100 years after the apostles. So they still kept many of the traditions of the apostles. So the apostles did meet on Sundays and they kept those traditions.
You can join this discourse. You can also challenge Deji's narrative.
Yes.
So you can call the studio. I'll give you a number that will also pop up on the screen at some point. So you can call on WhatsApp. Or you can call directly. 080 999 18449. So you can call that number 080 999 18449. We are discussing Deji's book, and we are broadening the discourse, taking it into other areas. Sometimes I feel Deji is a political activist.
Yes.
Some persons are calling for nationwide mass action, starting from the 1st of August.
Yes.
Are you in support of the nationwide mass action against bad governance?
Yes. Right now I'm going to quote Awolowo. Okay. When Awolowo was in the opposition, and between 59 and the end of the First Republic, Awolowo would always tell the people in government, he would say that you have your way. The opposition has its way, has its say. Okay, so that the opposition should have its say. For some reason, opposition politics has been eroded in Nigeria. I don't know, I can't trace where it started from, but probably when we began to adopt the federalist kind of government, and put away parliamentary government, opposition politics was eroded away. Now, what eventually happened is that the only opposition that we had left was our newspapers, our media men, and a few others columnists, people who write opinion piece. Those were the only few opposition. When you have a protest, you have a people's right to have their say. No government in the world, in any civilized country, should oppose a protest. In fact, what we should be talking about right now, shouldn't be whether we are for the protest or not. It should be, how do we protect the protest so that it is done properly? Okay? The Nigerian police should be at this point trying to talk with the protesters, the organizers, and tell them that, look, we're going to provide you this path. Please stay within those paths. They should counsel them on peaceful protests, and teach them how to ensure that their ranks are not infiltrated. Okay, so that's what should be done. The people should have their say. That is the only way they will be able to let out some anger. Because if you allow it to continue to pile up, we don't want it to go the wrong way. Okay, so let them speak. Let the young people who don't have jobs, let them speak out. The people who can afford to buy food, like a lot of people can, let them speak out. Hopefully government will hear what they're saying and implement policies that will make our society better.
At this point, is it just about having their say or having their way, and their way is good governance?
Yeah, that ultimately it's going to get to that point. Hopefully, because government has it all. And our federal government is becoming more and more powerful. They're having all their way, having all their say. So if the people are coming and stating, this is some things we want, these are some things we want. We saw what has happened in Kenya. And we're grateful to God that that thing happened in Kenya. And it's also influencing the societies all around Africa. If our people can come and say, these are the things we want, these are the things we want, government might be able to reach some kind of negotiation with them and say, okay, you people stop the protest, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this, But as long as we don't have any kind of opposition and government feels they can do whatever they like, society will not get better. In the days of the parliamentary system, government paid the opposition. They paid the opposition to oppose them. Because when you have people opposing you and putting you on your tracks, you will do better. When you feel you have come into office and you can do whatever you like, you won't have anybody holding you accountable. So that's so by all means the protest should continue, but it should be peaceful. The police should also ensure that it is well regulated and it is not hijacked.
Can you reflect on NSAS?
Oh.
What happened in Lagos?
Oh no. NSAS,
was that a peaceful protest?
NSAS, that night of the 20th of October 2020, something within me died. I couldn't believe it, because while I didn't join the protest because I had to be at work, we gave the people all the support, all the moral support, and we're praying that something comes out of it. But on the night when those young people were shut down, something within me died, something in Nigeria died. It is sad that...
What died?
I don't know. It was Tofolari. Tofolari was one of the coup plotters that did the coup with Gideon Oka. Okay, he was able to flee Nigeria and lives in the UK now. He said in his book, that the day his friends were killed, Gideon Oka and the rest, he said something within him died. He just couldn't function properly. It's the same thing. That night I couldn't sleep. I was calling everywhere. It was as if my children were there. You understand? I said, what is happening? What's happening? And unfortunately, the government instituted a committee to look into it. The committee indicted government. Government looked for a way to cover itself. It's horrible. But hopefully, I wrote about NSAS. I have 2 articles on NSAS in this book. Hopefully, our young people can rise up. Edmund, government must make a way for people to express pent-up anger, because if it continues to be shut down and a lid is put on it continually, it's going to blow out. And we don't want Nigeria to blow out. We want a peaceful country. We want, we talk about revolution, but we know that we can have another kind of revolution, an intellectual revolution, a peaceful revolution, change happening gradually.
This revolution you are talking about, yes. What can it achieve?
Well, it will achieve a stable society, a workable society, a society where at least most people are in the middle class. The kind of poverty out there is grinding. When I was making the phone call to you that day, I said I was on the queue. One man came to my side mirror, and he was a vendor. He came to sell newspapers. But I think because he had gone through so many of the cars and nobody was buying his newspaper, by the time he got to my own turn, to my car, he said I should give him something. So I told him, I said, but you are selling a newspaper. He said, yes, people are not buying. I said, okay, bring that newspaper, I'll buy it double the price. It's so, at least you're doing something. The poverty is grinding. It's terrible. In fact, I suspect we don't have any more protests because people don't even have the energy. Maybe it's somebody that has put something in the stomach that will come out to protest. Somebody who has not eaten since morning or since yesterday or for a week, they can't protest. So it's really, so we have to look for a way for people to express themselves so that at least government will be hearing and government will be able to do something about it. And again, there is also another principle I lay out in my book. I also try to state the fact that while government will be taking a lot of responsibility in society, individuals also have responsibilities. We all also have spheres of influence that we can govern, and help people pass positive messages to society to make society better.
Some persons will be wondering, why do we continue to produce the kind of leaders who produce leaders whose aim, you would say, is to ingrain poverty, violence, and poor governance on the system?
Yeah. You said something on your radio program. You said something about philosophical kings. Philosophical kings. I got these books from you. Awolowo's 13 books or all his written works, and I couldn't believe what this man was writing there. I think I was not exposed to Awolowo's thinking because I schooled up north, and I never really read any of his books. I realized while reading Awolowo that many of our people take this man's philosophy and thinking and they use it to build their fiefdoms, their own families, their own churches, and they leave the wider society. But you forget that if your family prospers, your church prospers, everything is prospering, but the society is still in poverty, there's a way this thing goes back to affect you.
Okay, we have a caller. Let's take this call. Hello. Can you hear me? Let's see. Hello.
Can you hear me? I'm hearing you louder.
Okay, I can hear you, though you are not clear. You're so faint. It's not coming out clearly. Okay, just try again. Yes, the numbers are there. You call us, and we'll put you on. Okay, he's calling again. Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. We can hear him. Yes. So that's the kind of leadership we build as a society.
Yes. Philosophical kings.
This caller is not giving up. Let's see. I'm thinking that we have reached the point where we started producing the Obafemi Awolowos again.
Yes, we will. We will. We will. They will come forth. You know, I was telling you before we started the program that something is happening with your broadcasts. A lot of people are reading, a lot of people are listening, and a lot of people are imbibing this culture. Hopefully it will start in our time, but it will start. If it doesn't start in our time, it will start in the time of our children. But some people are going to come forth and they're going to change the society. Okay, because I mean that's it's the nature of human beings. Human beings will solve their problems. In fact, I think sometimes human beings, the worst thing that could happen to a human being is prosperity. You know, when they have too much money, they don't think well.
Okay.
But when adversity comes, people find solutions. Our young people will solve these problems.
They will solve this
They
problem.
will. They will.
You're sure?
Oh yes, I see them all the time. They are brilliant. They are
Good.
doing very well. They will solve it.
Okay. Hello? Okay, we're not going to pick this call again. It's not audible. You can call directly. You don't call on WhatsApp. I think it's in a poor network zone. The program is State Affairs. And Deji Yesufu is our guest this afternoon. We are looking at this book and we are reflecting on humanity. Humanity, challenging narratives in politics, religion, economy, and society. That's Deji's book. You look at this book. You can get this book on udarabooks.com. On udarabooks.com. It's a recently published work containing 101 articles on politics, economy, religion, and society. And in most of the articles, Deji challenged narratives. And some of the narratives are the point of discuss this afternoon. You also wrote about Biafra.
Oh yes. Biafra is a question. It's a question that is very sensitive to my heart. I'm so thankful to God that while I was promoting my first book, Victor Banjo, you know, I went to Eastern Nigeria. I went to Enugu, you know, and it's one of the best experiences that I had in my life.
You wrote about it here?
Yes, I did. My 2 trips to Enugu. You know, the first time, the people were very welcoming. The city, super organized. You know, it's a construction site. The roads, I didn't meet one go-slow. Beautiful place. You know, unfortunately, on my second trip, which was like 4 years after, or 6 years after, IPOB had taken over some parts, you know, and lots of insecurity. But the people were making the best of whatever they had, you know. Biafra is at the heart of what I do, you know, because even though Soyinka is not a religious person, he's somebody I look up to a lot. And I appreciate the fact that he was a third force when that crisis happened, and he tried to reconcile the two this thing. And when I look back on that story, I try also to see that, look, there are some things we can learn from Biafra. You know, there's this story I wrote, this article I wrote on the ghost of Biafra.
Yes.
Still haunts Nigeria, and you invited me that time to come and talk about that article, and I think it still does. The Biafra died and ghosts have a tendency, at least according to folklore, to invade people who are alive and make them do things, you know. The Biafran story is, incidentally, while reading Awolowo, I found out that the whole crisis revolved around Awo. The man started the problem. You know, so Biafra is really at the heart.
When you say Awo started the problem, how?
Oh, he did, though. In fact, in Yoruba pronunciation, the way they would say Onijogboni Awo. That's what he was, a troublemaker. Honestly, because he had this insight into how Nigeria must operate. Okay, in 1947, a year after he got his law degree in in Britain, he wrote The Pathway to Nigeria's Freedom. Nigeria was still under British rule, and he was telling the British and Nigerians that we can govern our country ourselves. And he was explaining all the intricacies. the problems that could come up, and he will suggest solutions. In 1951, they started the Action Group. 1951. 1952, they took government. Okay, at least partly ruling with the British, and by 1954, he became substantive premier. Okay, by 1959, he left the Western region, heading to the center, believing that he will be able to, work with the other parties and win the North. They spent £10 million in northern Nigeria to campaign. They didn't win one office, but they said that it was money well spent. So he had that vision, okay, for Nigeria. When he lost, and what's his name? Zeke,
okay,
and Balewa came together to form government, he created his own office, the office of the opposition, and that was where the problem really started. The creation of that office had always been there, but somehow, originally, the opposition has a way of working with the people in government so that they won't rock the boat. Before him, Akintola was the leader of the opposition, and Akintola worked well with Balewa. In fact, Akintola was in Balewa's government. I think he was minister. He was minister of health. And it was while he was minister of health that he helped to plant UCH, build UCH in Ibadan, and so many other things. But when Awolowo got into opposition, no, it was Ijogbon. He was just causing trouble. And it wasn't just mere trouble. It was, look, we must do it right. This, I think there was the sense that because he was part of the people who wrote the blueprint for a Nigeria after independence, he wanted to ensure that the Balewa government remained on the path. And so he continually, and he criticized the government and stayed on their neck. You must do this, you must do that, And to the credit of Balewa and Awolowo worked well, at least on a personal level. They worked well together. The problem was that Balewa still had to answer to the Saudana. And that was where the problem started. And then eventually...
Could that be the reason they sent him to prison?
Oh, yes. Eventually, you see, the thing about, the Northern government or the Northern kind of feudalist system is that if you have somebody who is troubling the people or troubling the scene, they'll send you on exile. If exile doesn't work, they'll take you out. So, Awolowo was now becoming a pain in their neck, and said, look, this man, he has to get out, and sending him to prison was like sending him to exile, and unfortunately that precipitated the crisis.
Was Akintola an instrument in the hands of the North against Awolowo? Yes,
Akintola and Awolowo, I think what really might have happened is that we had something like a clash of personalities. Akintola was born in the North. Akintola spoke good Hausa. Akintola had worked in the Balewa government. So Akintola had a philosophy that, look, the action group does not necessarily have to be always antagonizing. We can find middle ground. We can work with these people. They are in government. We too can share in the pie. And he had good reasons for it. He wasn't a bad person for suggesting it to the action group. But Awo had a way of being very unbending. Sometimes this is how it's going to be done. I think it just boils down to strong leadership. He had a vision of where he wanted Nigeria to be. Okay, even if he's in the opposition, this is where he's going to operate. And somehow they just couldn't agree.
So in your view, how did this political crisis snowball into the civil war?
Oh yes. So it was like one thing fell over the other. One crisis, for example, Awo stated that the very first thing that he believes caused a friction between himself and Akintola was that Akintola came to Ibadan and did not have a house in Ibadan. Awo already had his own house. And Akintola suggested to Awo and said, look, or to the action group and said, let us build a government house where, somebody like myself, the premier, can stay in. And in fact, the author of Akintola's biography said Awo would have none of it. Because Awo was in government for how many years? Some 7-8 years. He didn't build a government house. He already had a house, But Akintola, so eventually they found a house for him I think where's this place here? Somewhere close by here. They found a house for him. He moved there. He stayed there, But he would have preferred that. Now, sometimes I look back now with the benefit of insight of some 60 years, and I realize that Awo was correct. Why? I don't know who built the Oyo State government house, but I am sure, almost 100% sure, that many governors don't sleep there. They stay in their houses. Awo knew this thing. I mean, you are more comfortable in your own bed, in your own space. Why will you leave office and go and sleep in government? It's as if you are still in office. So that was for him. And then he knew that a lot of resources would be expended on that. He felt that, look, whatever you are going to use to build government house, put it in free education or free healthcare. That was Awo's thinking. And that's why people loved him. But fortunately, himself and Akintola, they clashed, and so many other things came in. There was also the Federera thing and HID. They kept on clashing. Eventually, Akintola had to flex his model and say, look, I am the one in government, you are not. And then they went to Jos, and they had that problem and came to Ibadan. And they moved the motion. They were supposed to move the motion to remove Akintola, which was what was according to law.
Yeah.
But,
and they would have removed him.
Yes, but
because they had the number.
Yes, but incidentally, the biographer of Akintola, the one I read, said it was Akintola's old man who stood on the table and started causing problems.
Yeah.
Awo was even at the gallery looking at it. And at the point, everybody just had to, when the police came in with guns and tear gas, everybody had to run. So that's what caused the problem.
You wrote on your page that spending money on getting Awolowo's books remains one of the best decisions you've made.
Oh, yes.
I was wondering why you made that statement.
Yeah, it cost me a little. I don't earn too much money.
Yeah.
But it cost me a little. But I realized that it's the best. Awo is a fantastic writer. Fantastic. Awo writes like you're watching a movie. He starts with an introduction. He goes into the center of the book, and you are enjoying the information. And then he ends on the highest note. So, I enjoyed, and I read the biographies and the autobiographies first. So I enjoyed all the stories. Now I'm entering into his philosophies. The thing that Akin Omoboriwo called Awoism.
Yeah.
I'm entering into his philosophy. What made him think the way he was thinking, his socialist ideas, even though I don't agree with everything, but the mere fact that somebody was thinking. In fact, there's a book I'm reading now, I can't remember, one of Awolowo's, the one I'm reading presently. I wish my wife, check my bag, get the book, please. The one I'm reading presently, he said he dedicates it to the Nigerian youth. He knew the people of his time would not get the message. He knew it. That a generation will come and pick up those books and be reading. Edmond is the best money I've spent in my life. And I'm just out of 13 books, I'm just on like the 5th book. I'm just taking my time, consuming the thing. And I wish all our young people, please. I was reading it. I went to see the doctor recently, and I was reading it while I was waiting for the doctor. And yes, bring it. The name of the book is The Strategy and Tactics of the People's Republic of Nigeria. He dedicated it to Nigerian youth. He knew that. So I was reading it while waiting for the doctor, and one elderly woman came and said, she likes the book. I said, how will she get it? I said, look, this book, it might cost you money, but get it. Get it for your children. Let them begin to think out of the box.
This is the book we are talking about, The Strategy and Tactics of the People's Republic of Nigeria. You can get this book on udarabooks.com. Just send us a WhatsApp message. Send us a WhatsApp message on our numbers. It's a classic. I'm here to discuss Awolowo's books. I've only been recommending them. Thank God Digi is still reading. I'm waiting for Digi to finish reading. They will begin to take the books one at a time. Then after that, we'll move to Azikiwe's book.
Yeah.
Most of these books are out of print. But luckily, Awolowo Foundation decided to reprint Awolowo's books.
Wow.
Yes, because the books are out of print, and you can hardly find the original print anymore.
Yeah.
So Azikiwe's books are out of print. is also another great writer.
Yes, yes.
And you could see these men were brilliant men.
They were.
Compare their generation to the present leaders.
Well, Edmund, well, let me say with all due respect to the people who say that their generation was different, their generation was not necessarily different. I think what happens is that in our own time, the wrong people are just in power. Yes. I mean, some people just think they have money, they can buy everybody up. You know, I mean, our young people are doing well. They are doing well. Edmund, if you handle some of our politicians in Abuja, I remember when what's his name, Nasir El Rufai came to booksellers, that you handled him. You know, at some point he said, "Young man, you know, they need people to wake them up." You know, we have brilliant people. We have people, but many people, when they realize that nobody is listening to them, they'll just build their families, give their children education, and send the children to UK. You know, I have cousins who, if I spoke to one yesterday, was calling me from Canada. We want to come home, but this is your country. We don't know. Don't know what you have made it up to. You know, but thanks to you, Edmund, I mean, I would have left the country too. You know, but you keep saying it, we can fix this country. You know, you keep saying things like that, and those things, they generate sometimes that we're going to stay here. We'll fix it. You know, because I've been out of this country, and when you go there, the best you can be is second-class citizen. So why not stay in your country and make the best of it?
Let's conclude on Biafra. You wrote a book on Victor Banjo.
Yes.
You have been there and you wrote articles on Biafra.
Yes.
From what you are seeing in the southeast of Nigeria,
Yes.
what does the future portend?
Well, when I went to Enugu, I was hosted in a program to speak to secondary school students. It was a literary club where young people who are budding writers come. What I saw was that the East is building. They're building from under. You know, in another 30, 40 years, they may be leading Nigeria if the rest don't take heed. The young people, brilliant young people, just doing little things by themselves, taking advantage of the system and so on. So that's one thing that I saw. Another thing that I saw is that, yes, there's a lot of, how will I call it, a lot of anger because of the fact that the region has been sidelined, you know, and possibly because they were on the wrong side of the war, there have been some retribution. Rather than investing in that region, they take those investments to other parts of the country, you know. So people are bitter about it, you know. Take something as simple as innocent. There's no reason why the Nigerian government will not encourage innocent and ensure that all government vehicles be produced by innocent.
But Nigerian government is encouraging innocent. I can see police vehicles,
Oh,
road safety.
okay, that's
they
good.
use innocent.
Oh, okay, that's
Yes.
good. If they have started, I'm thankful. But at the time, some of us felt that just like in the 80s and 90s when the Nigerian government was patronizing Pojo and buying 504, they could have done the same thing with innocent. But not just innocent, so many others like that. I mean, make investments, you know, build institutions. But even if the federal government fails to do it, what are their own state governors doing? You know, I mean, somebody like Soludo was somebody who many of us had lots of hopes in. But unfortunately, we look back now. I mean, we're looking at him and he's not meeting the standard. I'm happy to hear of what is happening in Abia State.
Is it not too early to conclude about Abia?
Maybe. But some of the reports are quite positive, and we're just waiting and seeing. You know, hopefully, I mean, if Abia State can be a pace setter for the East, maybe all the other states can begin to. And then the other people, I mean, the people will look and say, look, if you are not going to behave or operate like the Abia State governor, we're not going to put you in power. You know, so,
Nnamdi Kanu is in the picture. IPOB is in the picture.
yes.
What do you think their role will be as we go?
Well, government has no choice but to negotiate with Nnamdi Kanu at this time. They have to sit down on the negotiation table and come to a middle ground. Okay, because when a man has a philosophy, regardless of the philosophy, But when he has a philosophy and a lot of young people have bought into it, we're talking about a mental thing, okay? And they are ready to lay down their lives to realize it. You have to enter into negotiation with this man and discuss with him and see how you can meet at middle ground. And I think the Tinubu government is beginning to do that. I hear they are sending people to him and trying to get him to, they may release him soon, with the hope that he also will temper his agitation. So
but he believes in Biafra.
Yes, he does. He does.
And you think he can step down from that?
Well, the truth of the matter is that if the eastern parts of Nigeria, the people of the eastern parts of Nigeria have suffered the way they have suffered, Biafra will continue to rear its head. People will continue to say, look, let's go independent. Let us do our thing ourselves. So it's a reaction to the present situation. That's what Biafra is.
Is Nigeria working?
Nigeria can work. Nigeria can work. The reason why it's not working, but it can work. The reason why I believe it is because of my recent reading of Awolowo. Awolowo believed in a united Nigeria, and he believed that the various parts of this country can bring its advantages to the center to make the country move forward. It was from him I even learned the whole concept of federalism. The fact that peoples who have one language or similar culture should be divided into states, and made to operate together, while at the same time they have a center that can lead them. So Nigeria can work, and Nigeria will work, but presently it is not working.
It is not working.
Yes.
Who did you write this book for?
Okay, well, I wrote it for the for the reading public, with the hope that they will read it and, buy the book, put some change in my pocket so that I can do more writing. That's why I wrote it. Actually, it's a collection of my writing over the past decade. With the coming of the internet, I found out that I can put my thoughts in the public space, and I probably would have almost 1,000 articles out there. So I found a publisher who said, look, if you are interested, we can gather the best of your articles, and they did that, and we have the book.
Are Nigerians reading enough?
Well,
because I see writers like you sometimes publishing 1,000 copies.
Yes, and
500 copies.
Yes, and we are not selling.
Will that take you anywhere?
Well, they are not reading. That's the truth. But we cannot. When I want to write an article or I want to read, sometimes I make my stomach to be tight. I eat something. Somebody who has not eaten and is not comfortable, I wouldn't have extra change to buy a book. That's the reality. However, our people should realize that you can read one article in this book, and it will change your perspective entirely. For example, this morning I was just going through the book and I said, Obilo is going to ask me a question. This is a difficult question. What could he ask for? So my eyes fell on what was that? Surviving Nigeria as a Graduate Today. And I read it and I was inspired, because I have young children and one day they are going to become undergraduates. Everything I've written there are the things I'm going to practicalize.
Tell us some.
Yes, my son is 10, my daughter is 12. These long holidays we're going into, they're going to learn music. My son loves to drum. He's going to sharpen his drumming skill. My daughter loves to play piano and all of that. They're going to learn some skills. After that, maybe their next holiday, they'll go and learn typing. My father took me and my brothers to type. But now, I type so well. All my articles, people say, well, how do you type? In an hour, I can produce a 3,000-word article. Just the only problem, of course, is the editing. That's where I spend most of my time. So I type so, and I took all of the skills from the skills my father passed to me. So some of those things. Our young people. I said in that article, I said, look, if by the time you graduate is when you begin to, that was the first time you ever did anything. You're already late to the labor market. You must be doing something. When you finish primary school, go and help daddy and mommy in the office. Carry their bag. Buy food for them.
Yeah.
And then they'll give you small change. And have an experience for working.
I used to trade. I used to trade with my mom.
You see.
You
see.
At the point we would go to the shop. I used to teach in jam centers.
You see.
And all of I used to explore.
All of those things you're doing right now, you've just upped it.
There were times I would just go sit in the libraries. The libraries have disappeared. Public libraries.
It's one of the failures of the system. We pray that it will come back. We're thankful to.
You are praying for libraries to come back?
Well, if they don't come back, we'll create the libraries.
Good.
We'll put them in our houses. We thank God for Udara books, and other bookshops that are selling books. People buy those books.
One of the hardest businesses to do.
Oh, yes.
Book sales.
Oh, yes. Because people will want for you to give them the book free.
And you give them, they don't read
it.
They
won't read it. So when they put in some money, just put in some money into a book like this one, you will appreciate it, you will read it, and you will learn from it.
I recommend this book to you. Detailed. This is just the beginning of the review of the book. I will do a personal review on this show. Then I'll take you into the book. What we've just done is to reflect on some of the topics and to reflect on society. It's a great book. I recommend it to you. You can get it on udarabooks.com, and you can also get it through our WhatsApp numbers. You can also meet Digi on his page. Digi, are you controversial?
Well, I try because my wife continually tempers me. As we are coming out, I said, "Don't say anything about Nigerian pastors, so don't do it." I won't say. I will keep them out.
Okay.
I think I'm growing out of those things now, but okay. I think from time to time, they continue to piss one off. The society is run by people. And there are pastors today. If they come out and they say one word or give one paragraph, Abuja will sit up. But many of them, probably for the sake of what they are getting from the center, I don't know, they will keep quiet. And the people are suffering. Now, I pastor a church, and I many times have to take money out of my pocket to give my church members to eat on a Sunday afternoon or for transport. And so because I'm involved in people's lives, I realized that I have to do something about the system. If the system gets better and the people get jobs and they prosper, then I wouldn't have to take money out of my pocket.
You voted in the last presidential election.
Yes, I did.
Should I ask you who you voted for?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind saying it. I voted for Peter Obi, and I was very, very vocal about my support for him. I also was very, I was so encouraged by the young people who came out to vote. When I went to, there's this accreditation we had to do before voting, to get our voters card, or maybe get my voters card. The place was filled with young people. They were all excited. INEC says they are going to do it. INEC says that our votes are going to count, and they came out. They voted. The place where I voted was a newly created polling unit. And because of that, more than 90% of the people there were young people. Obi took the place. He took it.
Why did you go for Obi?
Well, I just felt that we needed something new.
But Obi is not new.
Well, yes. It's just that, sometimes again, you weigh your options. So we had Tinubu, we had Atiku, we had Obi. And I just felt the Obi thing. But I have not finished the story. Presidential election came first. The young people came out, they voted. A week or two after governorship election, Obilo, they stayed in their houses. So.
Why?
They were disenfranchised. They were so upset.
Upset with what?
That their votes didn't count.
It didn't count?
They felt their votes were not counting. So they stayed up. On TikTok, many of them were tearing their voters' cards and so on. They felt that INEC had betrayed them because the IREV, which INEC promised, failed. So we cannot continue to do this to our young people. Let the votes count at the least. Regardless of who wins, let votes count.
Digi Yesufu,
yes.
Thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Digi is the author of the book Humanity, Challenging Narratives in Politics, Religion, Economy, and Society. That's the book. We just started a review of the book, and we'll see how far we would go. So get your copy on udarabooks.com. udarabooks.com, udarabooks.com, or through our WhatsApp numbers. I am Edmondo Pillow. Wednesday is another time. Thank you for being there.